Can we move on, please?
Yes. Oh, yes, this foreign exchange business. Yes, we're going to look at it at length, but we need to, say our own two bits before we actually get into the meat of the substance.
First of all, let's bring some anger up in some people. There's that information, that slide, or rather, it's an image from 1980 making the rounds. Now, I don't know if it is ready for us to take a look at it. At some point in our lives in this nation, $1,000, that's it, sold for 546 naira, 45 kobo. $1,000. Look at the date, October 13, 1980. So there was a time in our national life, and this is 20 years after independence. And this was during the Second Republic. You can imagine how much the dollar was to the naira and the naira was to the dollar at independence. How much was the naira to the pound?
My first car, I bought at $3,500. Naira, sorry.
What year was that?
1976. Tear rubber, as they say, today's parlance, tear rubber, radio, air conditioning.
1976.
3,500.
What kind of car was that?
It was a Honda Civic.
Whoa.
Honda Civic. And then 4 years later, in those days, once you've used a car for 4 years, you had used it. It was now an old car. It was time to sell and buy another car. So in 1980, I bought another one, a Peugeot that cost me 6,990 naira. You can't even buy, not even a tire, maybe the wiper or something.
The brand new
is all you can buy for that amount.
A used rear view mirror,
yes,
on the sides of the car.
The wing mirrors, yeah.
Yeah. One of them on an 03 Toyota Camry is 10,000 naira. It was 10,000 naira as about a month or 2 months ago. One. And that's just for the static one, not for the swivel.
Shall we?
So if you're going to buy two, I need to emphasize this a little further. If you're going to buy two of that,
20,000
20,000 naira for...
Just not part of the engine, just decoration on the car.
And if you're going to buy the swivel ones, you see the way my hand's going? The swivel ones, that's 15,000 naira a piece. That's two of them will cost you 30,000 naira. That's for... What do you call them?
Wing mirrors.
Wing mirrors.
Yes.
And now,
what is happening to our money? Well, I am really ashamed to say that some people actually describe it as toilet paper. And I feel very insulted when I hear that. Because it is the currency of this nation. But the way it's going, if you're going to spend loads and loads, suitcases of money to go and buy food in the market, then what's going on?
I think we should think very, very deeply and think very, very far as a people. Look, we all laugh at the Zimbabwean currency today. We laugh, at the way they use wheelbarrows to take money to the market to buy a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
We laugh.
Yeah.
But
we're on that road. A loaf of bread is what, 600-700 naira now?
So,
from 10 kobo.
Yes. And the one that they call Onibeji.
Oh, yes.
Back in time.
Ashilori.
So, yes, that's the one. So we need to do a lot of thinking about that one. There's those who say, and someone will be asking, how is this related to the CBN's, pronouncement? It's related in a very huge way, because there are those who say that the BDCs are mostly speculators who hoard currency in order to, for, inflation and for devaluation of the naira to happen and all those things. And of course, the CBN, needed to do the needful, so to speak. And a number of economists are actually praising it. Melafia is not on that table of praising, also saying that, look, as far as he is concerned, the banks cannot be trusted. Why did we need the BDCs if the banks could do this job in the first place?
Yes.
So it means that there was something wrong in the mechanics of how the banks were running it now. The CBN has said that going forward, the banks should have a dedicated table. Fine. But there are those who also say that the current practice now is if you, who is entitled to $4,000, would go to the bank to say you want to buy dollars, the most you're going to get is $2,000. And then, and that, it'll be on paper like we have sold $4,000 to Alero.
Who's going to accept that? I won't let you write.
No, they're not going to. You're not going to see it. It's not. It's just an administrative
in their
thing.
books.
Yes, it will show that X amount has gone out. Why? Because they're going to have to, some underhand stuff going on,
some mago-mago
BDCs and stuff like that. All these are things that are out there that if the CBN and the authorities do not go ahead and put information out, that's what people are going to continue to believe. And I've always been an advocate saying governments at various levels of authority need to come out and give information to people so that fake news does not thrive. There can be no vacuum.
This government is not very strong on talking to the people, is it?
Which government has been strong on talking? Which one? I
don't know what they have to hide.
I hate to say this, but the only government that has actually ever, in my memory, to the best of my knowledge and as much as I can remember, really communicated with people. We're going to do this. Or rather, we want to do this. Government already decided that they're going to do it. We want to do this. Okay. And you say, you raise hell, we're not going to do it. You bring in all the experts. You talk you jive, you harass. It's okay. Maybe government is not going to do it simply because we are complaining. Guess what? Bam, it's on your face. Why? All of the complaints that you raised have already been put in. Which government was that? That was the Babangida government. That's the only government I remember. We made up our mind, we're going to do this. Talk. Help us make it better. We're going to do it.
Okay. We're going to start today's program by looking at towards a stronger Naira. You see what we were talking about?
I don't want to talk about the Naira yet. I want to talk about more things. This issue is really...
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, let's talk about the Naira.
Okay.
Towards a stronger Naira. Okay, that's the first one.
Okay.
And then another issue that's been on the burner and which I think the federal government is thinking about doing something about in the course of this month. There's a Feed Nigeria Summit coming up. That's it. A drive to boost food security. There's been so many issues around that. And why are prices of food items up? We'll discuss that later.
And then we shall turn our focus on national health security. A healthy nation is a wealthy nation.
Yep.
How do we fare there?
And artist of the week, of course, is natural. With us here would be the home stretch.
And he's a he.
It's a he. Okay.
He is a he.
Okay. He is a he.
He is a he.
Not it's a he.
He is a he.
He is a he.
Yes.
Okay. I've heard you.
Okay.
So wait for he.
Yes. So in the meantime, you can be part of the program. Get your cocoa
or cocoa. Either one works.
See you in just a bit.
Well, thank you very much for staying with us. We only have one nation, as you have heard, and no matter what the issues are, ours is to discuss them, and the authorities have a responsibility to follow up, and you have a task to ensure that the needful is done for you. Well, the first conversation we're having this morning is about, diverse security threats all over the place, just as you have seen, but this one is... But is it financial security now? As part of a 6-month report on Nigeria's economic development, the World Bank raised exchange rate management as a first of 6 policy areas where it was advising the authorities to act within 3 to 6 months. It said Nigeria should communicate an exchange rate management strategy that makes the Nigerian autonomous foreign exchange as NAFEX, which it described as the anchor, more flexible. Now, the bank also says this would boost Nigeria's competitiveness while helping to reduce inflation. Of course, you heard that on Tuesday, the CBN decided to halt sales of forex to BDCs in Nigeria. The CBN says it will now be supplying forex to only commercial banks. The question is, should we be worried about the new CBN policy, among others? Those are the issues that our guests are going to be looking at this morning. Dr. Boniface Chizia is an economist. He's here with us in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Odilim Ewegbara is a development economist. He joins us from our studio in Abuja. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
As well as Olugbenga Adeoye, who is a chartered accountant. He joins us virtually from Abeokuta. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, sir.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, so economists, accountants, wow, all I can do is talk. Anyway, we have Dr. Chizia. Let's begin with you. First of all, opinions are divided on the policy of the CBN, depending on what interests one has. So, on whose side are you on, so to speak?
Well, I don't know. I think that we should take things in perspective. It's not a question of taking sides. I think that what you say, I think I'm going to start from the point of view to ask us and say, how many other countries in the world do you have official foreign exchange allocated to bureau de change? How many besides Nigeria? Let's start from there. And so some people are saying...
Are there any?
Well, I don't know. I don't know of any. What I've read is that only Nigeria that does that. And so, really, if you go to Accra, you go to most places, have operators who sell currencies and so on and so forth. They source it. So you source the currency and you sell it. And so, what to start from the fact that it's an anomaly of sorts, in the sense that foreign exchange has dominated economic management in this country for a very long time, because we don't have productivity within the economy. And so everything is being done. It's like firefighting. Every time we are fighting, we are trying to, by chasing, we are changing things and so on and so forth. Even as the governor has just made this pronouncement, people are saying how long is it going to last? Because obviously it's going to come under tremendous pressure. But because the fact of the matter is, who are those who have these licenses? The movers and shakers in Abuja.
As they say in this country, them.
But them.
Not them.
They have, so it's going to be, it's a tough call. So that's the thing. So it's an anomaly that it's not there. And we should begin to think of how to discontinue and disengage.
You talked about the fact that in other countries they source, because they still have to deal in foreign currency anyway, for tourists and, business travelers and all of that. So where do they source from?
But let me tell you one thing. Let's move a step back. If you source this money and you're not getting the money and the business is not as lucrative, it will not grow the way it has grown in Nigeria. I don't know if you followed the conversation. By 2014, number of bureau de change in Nigeria was under 80, under 74, to be precise. Today, you have 5,500. I'm just trying to quote figures. And in Nigeria, what tends to happen is that once there's money to be made somewhere, we'll rush into it. Yeah, sure. Now, what we're saying is that, yes, it might be difficult for people to source, but the necessity is the mother of invention. And so, if you have to source foreign exchange, you have to source it. Now, if you can't source foreign exchange, You won't be in that business.
For which reason the BDCs themselves said, look, the CBN's pronouncement does not in any way suspend their activities. But let's, okay, you wanted to...
Yes, Odelim, this matter of shrinking where people can buy foreign exchange, isn't it going to make the cost even higher? Because on the wake of that pronouncement, I think I heard that the dollar now went up to 525 or something. Isn't it going to make our situation worse?
I think your question is interesting, and let me put it this way. I agree with Mr. Boniface that it's only in Nigeria that individuals that are not into banking buy and sell dollars or allocated dollars. All my trips around the world, South Africa inclusive, you get to the airport, if you have dollars, they give you their local currency. When you are leaving the airport, you return their local currency, they give you your dollars. But let me tell you the truth of the matter. I think CBN governor has seen the right handing on the wall. In the next 5 or 10 years, you won't see fiscal currency, paper currency. You will see digital currency. So the problem lies now, who will need your dollar? You can't go anywhere outside Nigeria and spend dollar. After all, dollars is not our currency.
I wonder.
So what I'm saying in essence is that I will thank Mr. MFLA for being bold. But I want us to go to National Assembly and make it a law that you incriminate anybody handling dollars within the territory of Nigeria, unless around the airports and the borders. Now, coming back to your question, Nigeria cannot expect its currency to be stronger if it is not productive. But by the way, I am pro low currency, weak currency. I'm pro weak currency because it is good if your currency is weak. It will block you from unnecessary importation. It make it to inward looking. Look at all the nations in the world that have migrated from agric economy to industrial economy. China, South Korea, Brazil, just name them. At those points in time, their currencies were made purposefully or strategically weak so that to reverse importation so that people will now produce. People might say it's not true, but I'm telling you the truth. Even the World Bank proved that. The problem in Nigeria or in Africa in general, we want to have our cake and eat it. You cannot be importing everything and expect the local producers of the same thing to be competitive, especially when you look at the cost of money and cost of infrastructure and security. Now, we add security to that. So at the end of the day, we must go back to the drawing board. And I agree that MFLA has done his part, but the fiscal authorities have to do their own part. And security issue must be addressed so that we allow those Nigerians with entrepreneurial gifts to go into producing these things. Because these things are not rocket science. But to continue talking time with that number, you know, we have to do this, we have to do that. It's easy for people to speculate. But I thank MFLA for what he did because of what we call currency speculation. And as a result of people doing currency routing, people actually inflate costs of importation so that they will have excess currency they could keep somewhere and they repatriate it to import almost duty-free goods and things like that. So we have to actually be serious and not only just come up with a policy, but to back it up with a law. Let's go to National Assembly. Let National Assembly make it a criminal offense for people to move dollars within the nation. Thank you.
And, you know, almost every pronouncement of government is looked at with a lot more caution. There's that high level of distrust. You are saying that it is good for, you know, things to be the way it is now in order to encourage production, you know, domestic production, and consequently encourage exporting. But when in the first place the communication is not strong enough, and then the level of trust is very, very high, where do you see the balance? Where do you see the buy-in of the people who will still go source this foreign currency anyway?
You that whether we appreciate it or not. By the way, I have a patent I've already gotten in the United States. It's called oil banking. Oil banking will make you know to carry currency anywhere in the world. And if you carry currency, you will be dictated because nobody will take that currency from you. And the CBN already know about this. So what I'm saying in essence is that whether we like it or not, we must solve our problems. And the earlier we solve our problems, the better. You cannot expect Nigerians to continue speculating on another country's currency instead of Nigerians to go back to the drawing board and do their own thing. Look, for example, I use myself as an example. When COVID came out in 2020, within 5 months, I have been able to come up with a COVID treatment. And within a year, I was given, NAFDAC gave me a NAFDAC number to start my production. I went around, nobody could give me funding. Now the same, and also I had a patent on this. Now I've also now got a US patent on this, and I'm moving all my processes and production of all COVID variants to the United States. I'm already being provided funding. So who do you blame now? You blame me or you blame the system? What I'm saying in essence is that let's tell ourselves the truth. Time with the app number, we have been lying to ourselves because it's beneficial to most of us to lie to ourselves. Nigeria must restructure so that the local economies will decide what they want to do, their area of competence and the area of competitiveness. If we continue to centralize the economy, we continue to come back here time with the app number. By the way, this is my 10th year of appearing on channels. And we continue to tell the same stories. So let's tell ourselves the truth. Let's restructure this country. Let it be like American economy. Let it be like Indian economy. Let it be like a German economy. Let it be like a Canadian economy. Let it be like Indian economy. So that the locals, small states, will decide whether it is food processing or it is shoemaking or it is clothing, it is this and that. But if you centralize and continue to centralize and pretend things will change, things will never change. People are taking advantage of all the weaknesses in the system. And as he rightly said it, that is Mr. Boniface said it, who are the owners of Bureau de Change? From CBN top officials, I will not mention the governor before they come after me, from CBN top officials to the House Rep member. So they allocated this money and they know how to go around the whole thing and get back, make all the money they make out of it by hoarding it and by creating artificial scarcity and things like that. We must come to a point and tell ourselves the truth. The world will not stop because of Nigeria. The world will not stop because of Nigeria. So if you like, continue to allocate dollars to people. But I will tell you, in the next 10 years, nobody will take your dollar from anywhere in the world. It must be transferred. It must be digital transactions. So nobody will collect a physical dollar from you. By the way, America is trying to do away with the physical dollars. So where will you get the dollars in the next 10 years?
Dr. Ade, Mr. Ewangbara was talking something which we have spoken about, and in fact it's hackneyed. We always talk about we have to produce. We have to produce. I remember as far back as IBB's time, we were told export to survive. Yeah. This is how many decades later? We are still singing the same song. We're still hustling for the dollar because we import everything. What should we be doing now to rectify this position, which seems to have entrapped us?
Well, just like he ended in his speech now, I would say that the crisis we have in Nigeria is not only because we are import dependent, but majorly because of corruption. And let me give you an example. If you get $1 million allocated to you in a week, and you are able to make 100 naira on it, that is 100 million naira without adding any value to the economy. And so you look at the people that get this forex in the first place, I'm talking of high volume of forex, $1 million, $2 million, $10 million from the BDCs. They are not people contributing seriously to the economy. They have no factory. They have no businesses that employ people. And so corruption is one major factor we need to look into. Now, the second aspect, which borders on balance of trade in any country, is that we have not really looked at our comparative advantage. For example, one of the things that we spend money on in Nigeria today is petroleum products. And so how do you produce crude in your country and then you begin to source foreign exchange to buy the finished product where you have the raw material? So corruption on that side again, because when you look at why the government refineries are not working, you wonder whether there are demons operating in that refinery. But let's leave that aside. My worry right now about this policy is that the owners of Bureau de Change, they are very close to the authority. They are very close to the government. And I just pray that the commercial bank will be allowed to handle this henceforth, because we've had policies somersault in the last few years. You say something today, tomorrow you change that same policy. So I would say that what Emefiele has said, number one, is rather too late. Things have gone bad. We are in serious crisis. To get $1, you need over 500 naira. And so if we cannot say that people do not need foreign exchange in any country, if we want to be realistic, because the world has become a global village. And there are certain things that if you want to produce in your country, you will need to rely on raw materials from other countries. And so if you want to do transaction with a country other than your country, you need foreign exchange. So that is given all over the world. So if you come from China, you want to do business in Nigeria, you will need naira. There is no naira in your country. And so you need to exchange whatever you have as your currency. So there's no problem about having foreign exchange policies. You want to open a Form M, you need to know, are you paying in euro or pounds or in dollars? That is the subject of where you are importing from. The big problem we have in Nigeria today is that the people that actually need this foreign exchange, they are not being given. And so if they do not get this from commercial bank, they will need to go look for it elsewhere. And where do they get it from? They get it from the Bureau de Change. Somebody was talking about the issue of transfer or carriage of cash. In the next few years, it will become an abomination for you to do cash transaction. As a matter of fact, in the United States today, if you pay any amount from $10,000 and above, it's going to be flagged, just like we flag 10 million naira in Nigeria. So we have this problem of not allocating forex to those who actually need it, giving it to people who are stockpiling money somewhere, and then they come up with fake documents about who they sold it to. For instance, there is a policy in Nigeria today, one of the commercial banks, I don't want to mention their name, you cannot pay more than $5,000 into an account in 1 month. Now, what is $5,000? If you say this policy is to catch people who are corrupt, the best way to catch people is to allow their transaction to pass through the banking system. But if you say you cannot pay more than $5,000 in a month into the account, then it means you are encouraging cash transaction. So if somebody travels into the country from the United States or from United Kingdom, and he has come for holiday, he works in those countries, he cannot deposit money in his bank account, then there's going to be problem. And this is part of what is causing scarcity.
Well, so many things that can be unpacked from all that you have said so far, Mr. Adeye, but you know, Dr. Boniface Chizia here also made some comment earlier about, let me even take you up on this, Dr. Chizia. Part of the pronouncement of the CBN governor is, look, let the commercial banks do the needful. Before now, even with the BDCs, the commercial banks always had BDC operations, you know, in-house. In the first place, what made it necessary? What necessitated us having BDCs? And what are the things that you see must change? Part of what the CBN governor said is, look, let there be a dedicated table in the commercial banks, and any commercial bank that does not give, you know, forex to businesses as and when due should be reported to the CBN. That's so far the rhetoric, if I can use that term, because the issue of distrust is still there. So what are those things that the commercial banks failed to do that necessitated the BDCs coming into filling in the first place?
Well, okay, let me start by responding. All the ladies say that he's been appearing on channels for 10 years.
Oh, that's calling for an anniversary.
Well, we've been appearing since the 80s. It's like almost 40 years. So I'm super veteran, saying something, you know. So I think that's really what prompted this was that at some point in time, like I did say before, you know, the issue of managing FX. Since 1986, when we introduced the structural adjustment program under Babangida, you mentioned Babangida. Also, attempts have been made to see if we could get a handle on this matter. Now, what happened was that it's an attempt to ease access to foreign exchange that led to the establishment of Bureau de Change. And so the thinking then was that those who were in need of, you know, little retail requirements, you know, so I want to travel, you know, business travel allowance, personal travel allowance, I want to pay some bills, I want to pay subscription and so on and so forth. They shouldn't go through the banking system. Because of the protocols, the red tape and the charges and so on and so forth. So Bureau de Change was established. That is really what happened. It also happened with the rural banking program.
Yeah, but doctor, on their own, Bureau de Changes, they're not really a problem. It is the way they operate in this climb that is causing the issue, isn't it?
Yes, but that's...
Because other climbs do have Bureau de Changes.
But that's typically the way Nigerian mentality, Nigerian mindset. Something about the rural banking program. You know, we introduced rural banking program to hasten financial inclusion. We did that. What happened? The rural banking setup, they wanted to operate with foreign exchange. So it's something. And so you put them in place, and the fact that they're not making as much money as, you know, they think they should make. And so they want to get into the big thing. So the big thing in this country,
they want to be big players.
The big thing in this country is, you know, to get into foreign exchange. That has always been. That's where, you know, where the abuse is. That's where people make a killing and so on and so forth. And it's been like that. So you have arbitrage, like has been observed there. You have an arbitrage situation, you know. So you have access to foreign exchange. You get it, and then as soon as you turn around and then trip it. You make so much money now without adding any value. No production.
What checks must be put in for the commercial banks?
Yes, okay. I think that the most important thing is that I listened to Bankers Committee. I think they're trying to come on board. I think maybe the CBN must have appealed to them, and the CBN can also wield the big stick. And I think what they needed to do and what should happen is that they look for an opportunity to you know, for somebody, if you like, to be a scapegoat, or somebody, you know, to be caught and punished. All right?
Because, but doctor, they say that they see the BDCs aid money laundering.
Yes.
But have we heard of anybody who's been arrested and arraigned, prosecuted for laundering money through a BDC?
Well, you know, the thing is that obviously it's clear to everybody that lots of money has been moving, you know, in the parallel market or unofficial market. It's moving. But I thought I was going to drop on what you asked me. I think that the commercial banks, they are critical in this matter. I hear that central bank going on will be allocating $200 million every week to commercial banks. And they promised each. They promised that there'll be no charges. And so, I mean, they're going to, they want to partner with central bank, to find a solution to this problem. This is a problem. And like has been said there, has been observed there, let's see if the CBN is going to be able to withstand the pressure that's going to be applied on central bank. This thing was done March 2020 during the pandemic. Of course, the thing was reversed. And it was still during the pandemic. When it happened during the pandemic, and there are issues about COVID protocols and so on and so forth. But even then, who was traveling?
Nobody.
That was a grand. Everything was on a standstill. No productivity, nothing. But even within the environment that it was stopped, it was continued.
Okay, Mr. Ogbara, there was something you said earlier that's even though I followed up with a question, I'm still wondering, because there are those who have concerns around the fact that the weaker the currency of a country, naturally the people would also become poorer. Do you want to respond to that? I mean, a clear case in point is that of Zimbabwe as we speak. The weaker their currency, the poorer the people went. So how then do we correlate that with what you said, that a weak currency would engender productivity?
This is a beautiful question, and it's not a question I'll just answer within a few minutes. I wish you could invite me another time. But let me put it in this way. If you support your currency to strengthen your currency, you support importation. But if you allow your currency to be determined by the market forces, those who want to take advantage of the weakness of the currency in terms of creating jobs, in terms of because of the low cost of labor, we do that. We are assuming that most of the things we import cannot be produced locally. We also are assuming that most of the raw materials must be imported. Who told you that? This is what goes on in our minds because we don't want to face the truth. Let's assume Nigeria does not have dollars. What do we do? Biafra war, did they have a foreign currency? You see, the problem of a black man is a black man feels that somewhere else the solution lies. Tell me, if I was able to produce 100% of my raw materials in Nigeria for COVID-19 and for other things I'm doing now because I've gone into cancer, into hypertension, and I'm treating my patients very well, and it's 100% local raw materials. Why shouldn't that industry be developed? If phytomedicine industry is developed in this country, it's going to employ over 1 million Nigerians within the next 1 year or 2 or 5 years, and will reduce pressure on importation of pharmaceutical drugs. You see, it is step by step we solve a problem. You don't aggregate the problems together and solve them at the same time. I will assure you that I will not buy expensive shoes because I will not afford it. What will happen is that the purchasing power of Nigerians to imported goods will be low, but their purchasing power to locally made goods will be high. And what do? They congregate towards locally made goods. It may not sound scientific to you, but that's the truth. The truth is that economics is very trickish. But we follow it from elementary or scientific or so-called conventional point of view.
Mr. Wegbara, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon, Mr.
Wegbara.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Wegbara. You said that if the imported goods will not be able to compete with locally made goods. But recall that even the locally made goods have foreign exchange components because you're going to purchase your raw materials in foreign exchange. And we have seen cases where imported goods were even cheaper than the ones made in Nigeria.
A beautiful question you ask, but why is it so? It is so because we have refused to produce raw materials locally. I'm saying that it's not everything that requires foreign raw material. That's what I'm trying to let you know, but you did not agree with me. The shoemaker in Aba may not need Chinese leather or Indian leather. The producer of food in Nigeria that only needs a machine to process it and package it, does he need forex every day? You see, the problem is that we're giving forex to the wrong people. People who want to import almost finished goods and come here to package them. And most of them are foreigners who connive with Nigerians. You can disagree with me, that's your problem. I can disagree with you, that's my problem. But as I tell you, this country has to go back to the drawing board and tell you, save the truth. China told you save the truth in 1980. India has told you save the truth. That's where India is going. Nigerians must come back together and resolve Nigerian problem. We can't resolve Nigerian problem by being academic or by being grammatical. We must tell ourselves common sense will solve our problem.
Okay, Mr. Member. Let me bring in Dr. Adeoye at this point. Dr. Adeoye, we have not mentioned the local money changers at all. Where do they come in all of this?
You see that there is going to be crisis in the next few days in the country. And the crisis will be that the BDC owners, they are going to come up with their own meetings and they are going to challenge the government. And like I said earlier, they are very close to the corridors of power. They have employees, they are going to raise issues, and they are going to tell you that they have obtained license from the Central Bank of Nigeria. They've set up their offices. They've paid all that is required. And right now you're saying that we will no longer enjoy what we paid for. So there will be crisis. And you will see very soon, you'll start hearing the presidency is looking into the matter. A committee is being set up to look at the plight of the BDCs. And I can assure you that is going to happen in the next few days. So the people that are operating BDCs, we need to look at their operations objectively. I always say that headache, if you have headache, cutting off your head is not the solution to your headache. It's actually looking for what is the right medication that you can take to solve your headache problem. Today, in other countries, there is cash restriction, In 2012, I was in Ghana one day, happened to be a director of a company then, and then we got to the bank to make withdrawals, and they told us that there was a policy from their own central bank that you cannot withdraw dollar from your account, that you can only get the Ghana cedi equivalent. That was a policy to strengthen, their currency. And so there are a number of things that we need to do. In Nigeria, we have one big problem, and that's, I would say, in our local proverb in Yoruba land, that you cannot shave a man's head behind him.
Nonsense.
If you are caught shaving my head while I was asleep, I'll probably look for, arms to defend myself and take you as an armed robber. So before you come up with policies on how to strengthen the economy, did you consider the Manufacturer Association of Nigeria, the Pharmaceutical Association of Nigeria, the professional bodies like the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, the CIBN, the CITN, and then the commercial banks, and then the BDC themselves? That's how economy runs. So you sit down together and say, guys, we have problem in our country. The way the Naira is being weakened every day is a big issue for us. And then we also discover corruption going on. We want to have a policy to end this. Of course, people will say those who cause problem, they cannot provide solution. But the truth of the matter is that you need to collaborate with every stakeholders in this sector. And then we discuss, how many employees do you have? If we stop selling to you, what is likely to happen? Are you going to get it from other sources? Let me tell you something. You will see that people will begin to bring money into the country through the back door. They will not want money to pass through the commercial bank, which is where the problem is. Who is regulating? So the policy that the CBN announced is so fantastic, but my problem will be with the commercial bank. Would they sell this forex to those who actually need it? My colleague panelist speaking from Abuja was saying that people do not need foreign exchange. I disagree with him on that because in simple economics, we talk about production based on comparative advantage. So you focus on your area of strength, you will produce everything. If somebody need gari in Nigeria, cassava is here, everything to do it is here, and many other things. But there are certain high-tech, equipment that you need from other countries. And so it's just a matter of the balance of trade. We should encourage a situation where our export is more than our import. You will discover that our foreign reserve will just continue to go higher.
Okay.
But
thank you, Dr. Adere. Thank you, Dr. Let's bring the conversation back into the studio. Dr. Chizie, he didn't answer my question. Because it is not only BDCs and commercial banks that sell foreign exchange in this country. We all know that. And the sad part is that those who are not being mentioned at all, the local money changers, you go to a bank, you want to transact foreign exchange business. The bank is calling in a malam to do some part of the transaction.
Bring the money.
Exactly. So where do they come in all of this?
Yeah.
Because they are not legally registered as foreign exchange traders the same way as BDCs are.
Yeah, but then the Governor Central Bank did allude to that. He talked about embassies operating in this economy, international companies,
some international organizations
and so on and so forth, and said they're complicit. Now, what is happening is, if you look at it for the personal level, that's what people do. And you go to them, you get more naira. And so they bring in the hard currency. What's expected of them is to take this thing through the banking system. But they need to go through the banking system. They're going to get this rate. If I take it outside, I'll get a higher rate.
Of course.
And so if I want to monetize, my hard currency, I want to increase the volume of the naira I'm going to get, then I want to do it in the private market. So you have a point. So the Governor of Central Bank did say during his press conference that he's going to take them up. He's going to take them up. He's going to take them, report them to their countries and so on, and call them up, and that they have their facts. But even the oil companies.
If that conversation goes the way Dr. Adere talked about it, that the presidency is going to come out, and then some other conversations are going to come up.
Committee will be set up.
Some committees. I don't know how that. But there's a question that I wanted to raise from some of the things that Dr. Adere mentioned earlier. How does this policy help local production? You have talked about a critical, angle that, look, even no matter how local the production is, there are certain critical elements that would involve forex one way or another if we're going to scale up production. So in having that conversation with the various stakeholders, as you mentioned, how do the micro, small, and medium enterprises come in?
Well, like I said earlier, if you are producing and you are manufacturing genuinely, and we've seen that there are no alternative inputs of production in the country for what you are producing, and then you just need maybe $10,000, $20,000 to buy your raw material from one country or the other, nobody should waste your time in getting this done. And so all that is required is to ensure that when these funds are being transferred, whether an LC is raised, you ensure that the money goes directly to the manufacturer of that raw material. So it is when you have middlemen, 3-4 places that round-tripping is encouraged.
But then that's
So there is
perhaps
a gap.
what the CBN, the CBN is trying to address by saying the commercial banks should step in. But then the commercial
Yes.
banks had this responsibility before the BDCs came. So what are those checks that you would insist be put in if this policy will not somersault?
Number one is that anybody that qualifies for forex at all, the payment, the transfer of those funds should not go through any third party. There should not be any intermediary. For example, if you want to assemble Ford car in Nigeria, and then you have your plant here, and you say, oh, I need to send $10 million to get the chassis of the Ford, to the US, your money must go straight to Ford, not to one intermediary in New York, another intermediary in Texas, where the amount that you are supposed to pay have been jacked up. And so it is this excess that people now bring back in to cause crisis in the economy. If you are a genuine business person and what you are buying, you are paying directly to the manufacturer, the person supplying, without intermediary. We've had a lot of cases in the country where people wanted to buy aircraft, so you have 2, 3, 4 intermediaries. Money ended up in the hands of one Mr. A, and then Mr. A retained part. From Mr. A to Mr. B, another part is retained, and then you see that what gets to the final supplier is less. So
well, that's a critical one. Yeah, that's a critical one that you've mentioned there. But let me quickly ask Mr. Nwegbara this one just before we close. This whole forex thing, there are those who are still permutating that the political industry, will also play a significant role. 2023 is how many years away now? And there are those who think that 2023 may also add pressure to the dollar-naira exchange. How do you see us getting ahead of that?
Good question, but let me clear something because I don't want people to misconstrue me. I didn't say that forex is not needed. And let me clear another thing, because I have consulted for so many people who do round trippings, complex round tripping. Look, companies around the world, knowing Nigerians always want excess dollar, we inflate the cost of these things. Something of $10, they will say is $15, so that the Nigerian will get another $5 somewhere and go and send it somewhere and use to import things that are cheaper but with low custom duties. That is have been said. Now, the issue of pressure from politicians, I have made it clear to you, agree or disagree. In the next 5 to 10 years, nobody will have fiscal currency. Now, movement of currency anywhere in the world can be dictated. And that's why I'm telling EFCC, thank God we have Mr. Bauer, who is more proactive, to ensure that the movement of dollar from Nigeria, both in and out, can be easily tracked. And who are actually holding the dollar that we are not even talking about are the owners of oil blocks. Nigerian individuals, which is strange because it's only Nigeria that individuals own oil blocks, and they use oil blocks to get dollars, and those dollars they hold, they do round tripping of the dollars, and they create a lot of problems for the country. That's why if we can also remove oil blocks from Nigerian individuals as we're removing from Bureau de Change who are not active participants in the industry, these people who own oil blocks are not active participants in the oil industry. So we remove that from them so that we also monitor the inflow and outflow of dollars.
Okay.
In any case, the political class has already discovered that gradually it is being pushed to the wall because the system of fiscal dollars will no longer hold because America is removing fiscal dollars.
Well,
that is
most certainly you have given a lead already.
Where would they get the dollars?
You've given a lead already to this conversation.
I want to go to court and make it a criminal offense.
We have to go. Our time is totally up on this conversation, and the issues you have raised are most certainly germane. I know, as you well know, that the conversation on this matter has only just started. But for now, we have to thank you very much for being a part of this conversation. Odile Nwegbara is a development economist. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much for your time and thoughts. Dr. Olugbenga Adeoye is a chartered accountant. Thank you very much for your contribution to the conversation, as well as Dr. Boniface Chizia, who is an economist, joins us from our studio here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for our conversation. So, I guess Sunrise returns in a moment to take on another one, and it's also around security. Do stay with us.